Hello friends, I am Samuel Arvind, lecturer in economics at Government Degree College Sachivedu. Today we are going to discuss about the topic fiscal policy. This topic is very important at any level of exam, be it at the screening level, that is the preliminary level, or be it at the mains level. Each year at least one or two questions will be asked from this segment. It is a wide segment but very important segment. You need to have wide understanding as well as deep understanding of this topic to answer the questions from this topic. Okay, so without any delay, let's go into the topic. First of all, this word fisc, it was used during the Roman times, and the meaning for this word is government treasury or exchequer. So any policy that deals with government treasury is called as a fiscal policy. To define it properly, it is a policy that deals with government revenues and expenditure. In simple words, fiscal policy is also called as budget in India. Now, what is the main purpose of having this policy, or what are the objectives of this policy? There are many objectives, but they can be subsumed into these 3 or 4 areas. The first and the foremost thing is economic growth. The first and foremost thing is economic growth. Not just economic growth, but it has to be a stable one. See, in the past few years, we were having many ups and downs with regard to growth. It is not a good thing. Any country wants to have a stable growth like this. It wants to grow. Okay, we don't need many fluctuations. Okay, so one of the main objectives is economic growth with stability. Second thing is price stability. It doesn't mean that we don't want raise in prices. Of course, there has to be a reasonable raise in prices, but not skyrocketing prices. Okay, so a fiscal policy must ensure that there is price stability. It should not affect the overall prices in the economy. And third thing is the social justice. It has to ensure equity. It has to ensure growth to all the sections of the country. Okay, and then most important thing is it should not ignore fiscal consolidation. What do you mean by fiscal consolidation? Fiscal consolidation means any policy, or particularly the budget, has to keep in mind the finances of the government while trying to ensure that there is economic growth, there is price stability, and there is social justice. And these objectives, they may differ from country to country based on their economic system. In countries like India, that is mixed economies, all these 3 objectives are very important. In communist countries, social justice may be very important. In capitalist countries, growth will be very important. So these objectives may change from country to country. Okay, broadly these are the objectives for our country. Okay, next, how do we achieve these objectives using the fiscal policy tools? How do we do that? See, fiscal policy tools are the tax rates, subsidies, government borrowings, government allocations, grants. So everything that we do in our budget will affect economic growth, will affect prices, will affect different sections, industry, agriculture, or services, or external trade. Okay, so by changing this or by modifying this, our objectives can be achieved. Okay, next, as I said, fiscal policy deals with the revenues and expenditure of the government treasury. This is usually done in the annual budget. Sorry, this is usually done in the annual budget. Okay. See, I am not going into the polity issues. I am not going into what are the accounts, that is the Consolidated Fund of India, Public Accounts Contingency Fund of India, and all these things. They are also important, but they come from the polity side. You have to read it as part of the Indian Constitution. I am just sticking to the economy part. Okay, so you don't ignore those as well. You need to remember the articles related to the different funds. You need to remember the constitutional provisions regarding the budget. Okay, so those are also very important, but I am sticking to the economy part. Okay, so Article 112 of Indian Constitution calls for this budget segregation. It calls for a separate revenue account and other accounts. It did not specify that we need a capital account, but we are following this practice. So I am going to explain this. So in budget we have two accounts. One is the revenue account and second one is the capital account. Okay, in revenue account we have the revenue receipts and then we have the revenue expenditure. Similarly, in capital account we have the capital receipts and the capital expenditure. Okay, so now let us look into each one of these accounts in detail. Okay, so now let us look at the revenue receipts. See, in revenue receipts we have three sources of revenue. One is the tax revenue, and then we have non-tax revenue, and then we have other non-tax receipts. Tax revenue means the direct taxes and indirect taxes. In direct taxes we have income tax, corporate tax, and in indirect taxes we have GST, excise duty, customs duty, etc. This is at the central level. In states we have other duties like professional tax, okay, registration, stamp and duties, all this. Okay, I am sticking to the Indian economy part. Next, in the non-tax revenues we have the interest from the loans that are given by the central government to state governments and to other countries and to other organizations. Okay, and then we also have the dividends from profits from the public sector enterprises and all. Okay, and other non-tax receipts are the fiscal services. I am not going to explain each and every one of these, but this one is important. This was asked in the previous exams, so I am going to explain this. Just let me check. Okay, so I am going to explain this. So in fiscal services we have this concept called seigniorage. Seigniorage means it is the government duty of printing currency. See, while performing this duty we have seigniorage means it is the profit earned by printing currency. Okay, so how does the government earn profit by printing currency? See, let us say this is a 10 rupees note. Okay, and the cost of printing this 10 rupees note is, let us say, 2 rupees. This 2 rupees is called as the intrinsic value. Intrinsic value, that means the real value of this 10 rupees. But on the face of this 10 rupees, on the face of this note, we have the face value is 10 rupees. Here the face value or the nominal value is 10 rupees, whereas the cost of producing this 10 rupees note is 2 rupees. That means the real value is 2 rupees. Okay, but just because it is a fiat money, that means it is issued by the government, its value is 10 rupees. So the difference between the intrinsic value and face value, that is the 8 rupees, it is the profit of the government. Okay, so it is called as this profit earned by printing currency, it is called as seigniorage, and it is a good source of revenue to the government. Okay, so these are also other sources of revenue to the government. These are not so important, but you can go through them at you can go through them in the budget documents. Okay, now another thing that we have to notice here is the difference between receipts and revenue. Revenue means it is non-refundable. That means the government takes it and it doesn't pay back. Okay, it may pay back in some other public services, but it doesn't pay back in the form of money. Okay, whereas receipts means, see, the loans that the government borrows, the small savings funds, provident funds, these are the money that the government has to pay back. Okay, so that is the difference between receipts and revenue. Okay, so these are the revenue receipts. These are very, very important, and particularly when it comes to mains point of view, this topic, it is very, very relevant when it comes to UPSC and even Group 1 mains. Tax to GDP ratio, it is a very, very important concept, because each year the government, it tries to improve this tax to GDP ratio. Do you know, less than 5% of Indians, or nearly 3 to 4% of Indians pay this direct tax. Okay, the main reason is 70% of the 50% of the population are dependent on agriculture. Okay, so our direct tax to GDP ratio is less, so that is the reason why we have more indirect taxes. Okay, I'm sorry, I was wrong. When it comes to mains, this tax revenue concept is very, very important for us. See, tax to GDP ratio in India is one of the lowest in the world. It is around 17 to 18%. Okay, whereas in the OECD countries, it is nearly 35% of GDP. Okay, so we have a very low tax base, and each year government is trying to improve this tax to GDP ratio, but still there is huge potential in this regard, and this is a very, very important topic for mains. You can try to write an essay on this, how to improve the tax to GDP ratio, or what are the reasons for the low tax to GDP ratio in India. You can think of some topics related to this area and try to make an essay out of it, and that will be very, very helpful for you in the mains. Okay, and regarding the corporate tax also, in the last year or so, that corporate tax, it is reduced. Now it is the lowest in the world. So you can also make some points about this corporate tax. Okay, so you have to make a notes out of this based on the relevant news and all. Okay, next, the revenue expenditure. See, this revenue expenditure, this is considered as the expenditure that is made on the day-to-day activities of the government, like salaries, interest payments, okay, subsidies, pensions, grants to the states, economic services of the government, social services, general services, postal deficit, because the postal department usually it doesn't earn as much, so government has to spend on it, the postal deficit. Okay, expenditure on the union territories that doesn't have legislature. All these are part of the revenue expenditure, and government cannot escape that. The only way it can reduce this expenditure is by coming up with efficient ways of spending. Okay, So revenue deficit, see, I told you we have a revenue account. This revenue account comprises of revenue receipts, and we have the revenue expenditure. So when this revenue expenditure is greater than the revenue receipts, we have this deficit. Okay, so this revenue expenditure over revenue receipts is called as the revenue deficit. What does it show? It shows the government's inability to raise enough resources, be it tax resources or the profits. Okay, and it also shows that inefficiencies in how the government is spending its money. Okay, so this revenue deficit, as per the FRBM Act 2003, it's acceptable level, or it has to be reduced to only 0% of GDP. But if you see in the past few years, in the last year or this year, it is around 7.5% of GDP. Okay, in 2019-20 it is around 2.7% or somewhere around it. Okay, so that shows two things. One, the government tax resources or its revenue sources, they are not able to provide for the government expenditure. And second thing is, government is inefficiently spending its money. Okay, that means, see, for example, we are spending so many thousands of crores on subsidies, and that is giving negative returns in agriculture. Okay, similarly, we have so many of inefficiencies. We are infusing money into the public sector banks because of NPS. So all these reflects the government spending inefficiencies, and this has to be cut down if we have to bring down this revenue deficit to zero. Okay. And next, there is another concept called effective revenue deficit. Effective revenue deficit means, see, government, it gives loans to the loans and grants to the state governments for building schools and hospitals, irrigations work, etc. And whenever the money is spent on creation of capital assets like schools and hospitals, irrigation projects and all, this they say that this has to be ignored, or it should not be considered as part of the revenue deficit. So what they are doing is, they are just reducing this they are deducting this money spent on creation of capital assets from the revenue deficit to arrive at this effective revenue deficit. Okay. So from 2018-19, they stopped fixing targets for the revenue deficit and effective revenue deficits. But mind you, if you are writing an essay on any essay on fiscal policy or government finances, make sure that you include this revenue deficit, effective revenue deficit, fiscal deficit, and primary deficit. Okay, these are very, very good indicators of the fiscal health of the government. Okay, as I told you, revenue deficit, it reflects the government tax raising capacity. India has one of the lowest tax to GDP ratio in the world. That is a big concern for us every year. Okay, see, effective revenue deficit, it is also very important, because even if the revenue deficit, let us say we have around 2%, if the effective revenue deficit is 0%, that is acceptable, because we are spending on creation of capital assets. Okay, fiscal deficit is very important. We are going to discuss that. Primary deficit is also very important. We are going to discuss them in the next slides. Okay, so even if the government is ignoring some concepts because of whatever the reasons they have, but you as an aspirant, you should not ignore these topics. Okay, next, a capital account. In the capital account, we have the capital revenue, capital receipts, and the capital expenditure. The capital receipts can be divided as the debt receipts and non-debt capital receipts. In the debt receipts, we have internal borrowings and external borrowings and other liabilities, that means other loans. In the internal borrowings, we usually borrow from RBI. There are many ways like treasury bills, dated securities, cash management bills, okay, market stabilization scheme, or through various methods we borrow from RBI, ways and means advances. Okay, we can discuss them while discussing RBI. Okay, so all these are part of the internal borrowings. External borrowings means that we borrow from IMF. See, I also mentioned international financial institutions. These are Asian Development Bank, okay, and similar projects. But multilateral loans is the loans that we are borrowing from IMF or from any other UN agency, or we borrowing from USA. All these are part of the external borrowings. And then we have other liabilities. Government has other liabilities. We have the public account. These are part of the public account. The National Small Saving Fund, Provident Funds, the reserve funds that we have for various issues. Okay, all these are part of the other liabilities, or part of the debt receipts of the government. And then we have the non-debt capital receipts. That means these are not a debt. That means these we don't have to pay back. Debt receipt means we have to pay principal and interest along. We have to pay interest along with the principal for the money that we have borrowed. Okay, in the non-debt capital receipts, we have the recoveries of loans. See, central government gives loans to states. Okay, gives other countries. Okay, some for its own PSUs. Okay, so whatever the interest or the principal that is earned from these loans, it is part of the non-debt capital receipts. See, the proceeds from disinvestments. See, government wants to sell the steel plant in Vizag. It is trying to sell Bharat Petroleum. Okay, so all these proceeds from disinvestment, these are also part of the capital revenue. Okay, and see, for us, when it comes to the revenue part, the revenue receipts are most important, because they are most of them are non-refundable, whereas in this capital revenue, the significant part belongs to the debt receipts, that is the borrowed money. If this increases, we will fall into the debt trap, that which we are going to discuss in the next slides. Okay, so when it comes to raising financial resources to any country, of particularly India, for us we have to focus on the revenue account more. When it comes to revenue, capital revenue, see, it is not desirable. One thing, disinvestment proceeds, though it is not refundable, it is not, we should not sell our family silver for day-to-day expenses. Okay, and loans, this is okay, but see, particularly borrowings, we have to cut down, be it internal borrowings or external borrowings. We have to cut down them as much as possible. Okay, next, capital expenditure. This capital expenditure is a very important thing. Why capital expenditure is important is because it creates permanent assets, and it also, the investments made on capital expenditure, they yield some periodical income. Okay, let us say you have established a public sector unit. Let us say you established a public sector, let us say you have established a public sector unit, and they earn profits every year. For example, BPCL, ONGC, these are profit making entities, and government earns huge amount of money from these PSUs. So investing in such PSUs, developing new infrastructure projects like airports, roads and all, they give the periodical income to the government. Okay, So capital expenditure is very high. That is why many committees, the recent committee, that is the NK Singh committee or Rita Krishnan committee, or before that many years Rangajaran committee, all of them, what they suggest is to raise this capital expenditure. If you are borrowing money, you spend it on investments, don't spend it on consumption. That is, don't give it for don't give this borrowed money as freebies. Okay, you better invest this money so that you have this periodical income and you can pay back the loans. Okay, so government focus has to be on increasing this capital expenditure. Not only that, this capital expenditure, it will create lot of jobs. Okay, see, for example, if a metro is being constructed, the lot of engineering jobs, lot of labor intensive jobs will be generated. Okay, so capital expenditure, it is very important. Not only generates income, it generates growth, it generates employment opportunities. So this has to be increased as much as possible. Okay, and next, capital account deficit. See, when it comes to budget, there is no such thing as capital account deficit. Okay, but we have a capital account, we can have a capital account deficit in the balance of payments. Okay, but for the budget, no, there is no capital account, no, there is no such thing as capital account deficit in the budget. Okay, next, deficit financing. Where does this concept arise, deficit financing? See, whenever the government is having a mismatch. See, we have as I said, we have two accounts, revenue account and capital account. Okay, in this revenue account we have the revenue receipts and revenue expenditure, and then we have capital receipts and capital expenditure. Okay, these two form, revenue receipts and capital receipts, these two form the total budgetary resources. Okay, and revenue expenditure and capital expenditure, these two form the budgetary expenditure. Okay, so whenever there is a difference between the budgetary expenditure and budgetary receipts, that means if the budget expenditure is more than the budget revenue, we have a budget deficit. We have a budget deficit. Okay, so to fill this deficit, government borrows money. To fill this deficit, government borrows money, and it is called as the deficit financing. Okay, this is a very important concept when it comes to mains and even prelims. There are many concepts related to this deficit financing, such as crowding out effect. Okay, crowding in effect. Okay, these are some concepts that you have to remember for the prelims. Next, in this deficit financing concept, many people get confused with these two topics. That is, one is the public debt and second is the fiscal deficit. See, public debt, it is a long-term phenomena. Okay, so it is a stock. It is a stock of debt that is accumulated over the years. So in the last few years, how much debt we have accumulated? Let us say we have accumulated some 10 lakh crores. See, we are not specifying any year or any month. We are saying India is having these many lakh crores of debt. Okay, it is a stock. Whereas fiscal deficit means it is a flow concept. It is a flow concept. When we are saying fiscal deficit, we have to mention the period. That means in which period the debt to a particular period, debt in a particular period. Okay, so it is also the same thing here. Also government is borrowing, but we are mentioning the period. That means in which year or in which quarter. Okay, so fiscal deficit is a short term phenomena. Okay, that means how much money government borrowed in this particular year or in this particular quarter, whereas debt means it is the overall how much loan that the government has till date. See, for example, you can relate it with your personal finance. Your family may having let us say 10 lakhs loan, 10 lakh rupee loan. Okay, this is the debt that you accumulated by taking housing loan or car loan or whatever loan. Okay, last month because of some reason you have borrowed some 10,000. Okay, this is the debt that you accumulated over the last years, and this is the debt that you have accumulated in the last month. So debt means it is the accumulated stock, whereas fiscal deficit means it is a short term phenomenon that it is debt related to a particular period. Okay, and both of these things, they are measured as percentage of GDP. Fiscal deficit at what percentage of GDP? Is it 3% of GDP, 10% of GDP, 5% of GDP? Okay, public debt 60% of GDP, 90% of GDP. Okay, recently in the recent years, public debt has become a major concern in India, particularly because of this COVID crisis. Public debt is a cause of concern for us, because in India the acceptable level is 60% for the central government. Now it is around more than 100%. Okay, so it is a serious concern. We are comfortable only with this level, but the debt is around 97% to 100%. Okay, so you do some research on this. It can be a question in the mains. Okay, for the prelims part, fiscal deficit, its definition, its fiscal deficit percentages, these are all very important. Okay, now let us look at this fiscal deficit. Fiscal deficit means it shows the level of borrowings of a country, okay, or the amount of money borrowed by the government in a particular year. If you go by this, if you go by a formula, it is the total expenditure minus revenue receipts plus non-debt creating capital receipts. Okay, total expenditure minus revenue receipts plus non-debt creating capital receipt. Or you see, it is nothing but, see, if you can observe, it is total expenditure minus total revenue only. But in this total revenue, what we are ignoring is, we are ignoring the debt receipts. We are ignoring the debt receipts. So when you subtract this from total expenditure, you will arrive at the amount of money borrowed by the government. Okay, it shows the amount of money borrowed by the government in a year. Okay, so what is the acceptable level of fiscal deficit according to the FRBM Act 2003, according to the Tarapore Committee, according to Gita Krishna Committee, according to Rangarajan Committee, according to the recent NK Singh Committee? The acceptable level is 3% of GDP per year. Okay, why 3%? Because see, fiscal deficit has many implications. What are the implications? If you say, see, because of corona, you can see that our fiscal deficit has skyrocketed to 9.5%. 9.5%, that is. And in the coming year, that is 2021-22, they are expecting it to cut down to 7%. This is very, very high, and it is not at all acceptable. Why? Because whenever we have fiscal deficit, that means government is borrowing beyond its resources, means it leads to inflation. Why inflation will arise if fiscal deficit is more? Why? If fiscal deficit increases, inflation increases, because government is borrowing and spending. Borrowing and spending. This money is not generated from the economy. This money is not generated by doing economic activities. What is economic activity? Production, distribution and consumption. Okay, without any of this, government is just printing money and it is spending. Okay, what happens when government spends? Lot of money will be infused into the economy, but this money is borrowed. There is no economic activity, and without any economic activity there won't be any goods and services. So there is more money chasing few goods, so demand will be high whereas supply of goods will be less, so there will be a inflation in the economy. Okay, and inflation is a very big concern. So if you want to destroy a country, inflation is the first solution and second is war. Okay, because inflation will affect the poor very much. It will create lot of economic suffering in the country. So you can observe that overall the prices are very high, particularly the food grains, the essential prices, petrol, diesel, all these prices are increasing. One of the factor can be this rise in fiscal deficit. Okay, second thing is, if fiscal deficit increases, it also raises the current account deficit. These are twins, that is why they call them as twin deficit. Okay, how are they related? See, if there is inflation, our goods will be expensive compared to the foreign goods. Our goods are expensive compared to the foreign goods. So what happens? Our imports will increase and our exports will fall. Our imports will increase and exports will fall because our goods are costlier compared to the foreign goods. People will import more and export less. There won't be much demand for our Indian goods in the foreign market, and that leads to a current account deficit. Our since our goods doesn't have demand, our rupee will also doesn't have demand, and the value of rupee will fall. Okay, so that is why we should always keep this fiscal deficit in check. It has to be restricted to 3% of GDP. Okay, but during these times, when the economy is in a when the economy is really hit hard because of the current pandemic, we need some support. We need an injection to the economy, which we call it as the fiscal stimulus. Okay, this fiscal stimulus main tool is the fiscal deficit. Okay, so by borrowing we can give this stimulus to the economy. This is the solution given by John Maynard Keynes in his book General Theory of Employment in the year 1936. He was the one that gave solution to the Great Depression of 1930. This was a solution. Government, if there is economic recession or economic depression, government has to step in. If there is no work, government has to create work just by digging pits and burying them, filling them again. What will happen? Jobs will be created, demand will boost. Okay, and that will start the economic activity again. It will have a multiplier effect on the economy. Okay, so this fiscal deficit, it is a very powerful tool in terms of crisis. But when it is normal, the situation is normal, when there is boom in the economy, when the economy is recovering, we don't have to use this fiscal deficit. It has to be restricted. Why? Because it will lead to inflation, it will lead to current account deficit, rupee value will depreciate. Okay, and the most important thing is it will have crowding out effect on the private investment. It will have crowding out effect on private investment. What is crowding out effect? See, money supply is not unlimited. Money is not unlimited. Money is a limited resource. Okay, and what happens when demand for money increases? Interest will increase. When demand for money increases, interest will increase. So if government is demanding more money, interest will increase, interest rates will increase, And when interest rates are high, people, they don't prefer to invest more. Okay, so this rise in interest rate will discourage investment. Okay, so this phenomena is called as crowding effect. Because government is borrowing more money, it is demanding more money, interest rates will increase. If interest rates increase, it will discourage private investment. This effect is called as crowding out effect. Okay, and similarly, if government is demand for money is less, interest rates will fall, and if interest rates are less, investment will be more, and that is called as crowding in effect. Okay, see how many factors it is affecting fiscal deficit. It is affecting the inflation in the economy, it is affecting our current account deficit, it is affecting the rupee value, it is affecting the investment in the economy. Okay, so that is why it is the key indicator, and it has to be always kept in check. Okay, now what is primary deficit? Primary deficit, it shows how much money we are borrowing to repay the loans. Okay, how much money government is borrowing to repay the loans. See, it is nothing but fiscal deficit, that means the money that we are borrowed money minus interest payments. Let us suppose that you have borrowed 100 rupees, and out of this 100 rupees you have paid 50 rupees as interest. What is left with you? 50 rupees. And let us say you have borrowed 100 rupees and you have paid 75 rupees as interest. You have 75 rupees as interest payments. So what is left with you? 25 rupees. That means you are borrowing just to pay back your previous loans. It is not a good thing. That means we are in a debt trap. Okay, so primary deficit, it means fiscal deficit minus interest payments on previous borrowings. Okay, it also has to be kept in check. Okay, we always have to try to repay our loans, and another thing is we should not borrow more. Okay, these two things will help us in controlling the primary deficit. Okay, these are the present levels of of these indicators that we just discussed. Okay, our fiscal deficit is around 9.5% in 2020-21, and we are estimating that it will be reduced to 7%. The current pandemic, it may even increase. Okay, and then our revenue deficit, look how much high it is, 7.5%. You might have observed that our GST revenues have fallen significantly. Okay, all other sources of revenue have fallen significantly, and this has led to the fall in the revenue deficit as well. Okay, rise in the revenue deficit as well. Okay, so effective revenue deficit is also very high. See, this is also very high. See, that means what does it indicate? That means our previous borrowings are also very high. We are, if primary deficit is very high, means we are borrowing more just to pay back the previous loans. Okay, so if this is high, means our previous debt is also very high, and we are borrowing more just to compensate or just to pay back the previous loans. Okay, so it is also very, that means our financial situation of the central government is very poor. Okay, next, to strengthen the financial situation of the government, in 2003 the central government has made an act which is called as the Fiscal Responsibility and Budgetary Management Act. Okay, the main agenda or the main objectives of this act is to imbibe fiscal discipline to both the central government and the state government, and to borrow only for the purpose of investments and not for consumption. And it wanted to restrict RBI from printing money to give money to the central government as a loan. Okay, and as per this FRBM Act, government along with the annual financial statement and grant statement, it has to present before the parliament these documents: medium term fiscal policy statement, macroeconomic framework statement, fiscal policy strategy statement. And recently in 2012, amendment was made and a new document has to be included along with the budget, that is the medium term expenditure framework. Okay, so all these four documents have to be presented before the parliament as per the FRBM Act. And these documents, that is particularly in the medium term fiscal policy statement, government has to set targets for revenue deficit, effective revenue deficit, fiscal deficit, tax to GDP ratio, debt to GDP ratio. For all these things, government has to set targets for the next 3 financial years. Okay, so government had made many targets many times, and all of them were amended again and again because of the economic crisis, because of the economic fluctuations. Okay, now recently in 2016, government has appointed a committee with regards to the financial strength of the government. Okay, so this encasing government, recently in 2016, government has appointed a committee called as encasing committee to advise the government on improving the financial strength of the government. These are the main recommendations of the encasing committee, that is to create a fiscal council of 3 members that will prepare a forecast for both the central government and state government, and also they have to review the performance of the central government and state governments, how they are managing their finances. And second thing is, they also advised that the debt to GDP ratio, it has to be reduced. See this figure, it was around 2016-17, it was around 68%, and that was not acceptable for this committee. Now it is around 97% to 100%. So they are advising that it has to be reduced to 60%, comprising 40% of the center and 20% of the states. Okay, and next, most, as I said, adopt fiscal deficit as the key operational target at 3% of GDP. Okay, and if there are any unforeseen events, in case there are any unforeseen events, then they said that the fiscal deficit target should not be more than 0.5% over this 3 point. That means they are advising that the fiscal deficit should not be more than 3.5% of GDP. Now it is around 9.5%, and in 2021-22 it can be even more. Okay, so these are the recommendations of encasing committee. What they are advising: control your debt to GDP ratio. Okay, restrict your fiscal deficit at around 3% of GDP. If there are any unforeseen events, you can slightly improve the fiscal deficit by 0.5%, not more than that. Why? As I said, it will have lot of impact on the economy, on the inflation front, current account front, crowding out private investment. All these are the various issues. So fiscal policy, there are many, it is a wide area, there are many points to discuss. I will try to address them in the next lecture. But given the time, I try to restrict myself to from the budgetary point of view, and I have discussed the deficits. I have given more stress to the deficits, and I have gathered this information from the budgetary documents and the NCERT book. Okay, so just go back to all the points that I have discussed, and try to answer some questions on these topics. These are very, very important concepts. Each and every year, at least one question is asked from the deficits, one question from the static syllabus regarding the budget and all. So this is a very, very important concept. Okay, any topic that I have missed with regard to this fiscal policy, you can mention in the comments, and I'll try to add in the next lecture. Okay, thank you.